What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Creepy Crawl. You know, I've been doing a lot of reminiscing. On my way home from work, more times than not, I drive by this one house, and it was a neighborhood friend of mine. Actually, we went and looked at the bicycle track the other day. It was on the other side of what I was showing you. Remember that dirt field that I said they raised up? Yeah, he lived in the woods right behind that. And I say woods, it was like 10 feet of brush and a couple of trees. But I drive by that more times than not on the way home from work, and there's a very pivotal guitar in my life that's related to that house, and it is the one that got away. And every time I drive by it, I can't help but go, that sucks. So I thought it would be fun to go back and see the top five guitars that got away, the ones. You know, I've had a lot more guitars than these, and some have left me for whatever reason, whether I just didn't like them, or I traded them, or sold them, or they got stolen. But these, I think, would be the five pinnacle ones that if I were to build my dream collection, sorta, I would want these forefront. Right? So the first guitar on this list is going to be, it was like an Aria Pro, Aria 2, I don't remember exactly which one, but it was made by Aria. And it was one of their ES335 copies, or a nice dark tobacco burst, faded sunburst. I don't know what you would actually call it. I don't have too much memory with this one because I didn't really have it all that long, and that'll become evident here in a few minutes when we actually get to number 4, because this one slithers into number 4. How we acquired it was my dad bought it off the son of a friend of theirs. He would do Bible study with this couple, Joe and June, every Thursday or whatever it was, but he would go there, and they had an older son that played guitar, so I would tag along with my dad and go hang out with him in his bedroom. He probably loved it. But he had a lot of Kramers and stuff, and he would show me Iron Maiden riffs. But the only guitar in his house he'd let me touch is this Aria Pro. Actually, it was like this high off the fretboard. The thing just needed a lot of love, or just needed to get smashed. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That might be a hint of what happened to it. So over time, I mean, my dad saw that I would really want to get the guitar. So my dad bought that off of him for $50 without me knowing. And I'm pretty sure it was given to me on my birthday because, again, I didn't have it for long. The next guitar I got was when I graduated from 6th grade into junior high school. So leaving out how that one left my life, I actually have to start talking about the next one. I promise I won't do that with each guitar. Number 4. Number 4 is probably the most realistically obtainable, honestly. The Aria Pro, maybe. Those didn't really fare too long. There are a good handful of decent examples out there, and I would like to have that back, but maybe in another form. You know, I would like a ES335 copy. But the next one is, they go between $400 and $600, and it's just a matter of whether or not I just want to allocate the money for it. But it's a Kramer Striker ST400 that was purchased at Daddy's Junkie Music in Peabody when it was on Route 1 North in that small little house-looking thing before it went across the street into the old party pizza place. It wasn't a Chuck E. Cheese or it was a knockoff of all those. My father brought me up there to get some strings and noticed I liked that one in particular, and unfortunately couldn't take it home. But on the day I graduated from 6th grade, which is elementary to junior high, before we got the whole middle school treatment here in town, my dad bought that for me. He saw that I was serious about the guitar, and it wasn't something that was just going to end up in the closet or at a yard sale or whatever. You know the drill. I probably said it a few times already. So he went and got this as my first legit guitar, and I had that thing forever. It was such a great guitar for me to learn on, aside from the fact that it had a Floyd Rose. Now, there were a couple of different variations of it. The variation I had, I think, of the early models. Kramer guys, if you watch this, let me know. It had the rings around the single coil pickups. It was a humbucker and 2 single coil. And mine had the 3 on-off switches, not the rotary switch like you see on like Strats and stuff like that. Now, as far as where that ended up going, me and a really good friend of mine got into a huge fight over giving another buddy a ride home as promised, and he ended up getting kicked out of his home as a result. So I smashed his windshield. I just took a big brick and put it right through his windshield. And as payment, I gave him that. That's really all there is to it. So talking about what happened to the Aria Pro then. Well, I went over to my other friend Billy's, where we used to party all the time. Yes, even around 6th grade. We weren't getting too crazy, but a couple of beers or a wine cooler or something, you know, because we thought we were cool. And we cranked it up really loud and smashed it against his mantle. Oh, well. What can you do? We were young, dumb, and full of stuff. All right, so number 3 is where things get pretty interesting. And you can see a trend here. A trend. They're going to be all Gibsons, okay? I'll just come right out and just say it. They're going to be all Gibsons. So the next one is a 1978, I believe it was dated, the SG. Not an SG, but the SG. And I'll put a picture of it here and a couple of pictures of me playing it. I had that for a number of years. I played with it, kind of toured with it. Had that forever. I broke the neck joint whipping it at my drummer at one point. That's the guitar I honestly thought I was going to be buried with. How I got that one was I had purchased an Epiphone Les Paul. When the Epiphone Les Paul was first starting to be like a legit thing, you know, it looked the part and felt the part. So us who couldn't afford an actual Gibson Les Paul standard would pick one of these things up. And I got it at the same daddy's, except when it was across the street on the southbound side of Route 1 in Peabody. About a week later, I went back for something and saw the SG just sitting there for like $325 or something to that effect. It was $340 actually. So I asked him, I said, I just bought something. Can I trade it back in for that? He goes, yeah, it's within the 30 days. So I flew back home and came back up, made the exchange. I actually made a few bucks back on the deal. It was awesome. I had that thing forever. I broke the neck joint. So if anyone has one that has a very fine neck joint repair, it looks great. That was mine. I'd love the opportunity to buy it back. I had, at the time it was popular, you put 50 cents in the thing, these foil stickers would come out. They were like this big. They were alien head reflector stickers. And I had one of those on it for a while. You could see the outline after I took it off. You could still see the outline I had on for that long. So if you don't recognize that in your guitar, that was mine. It played all over New England. Other characteristics, I put Tony Iommi pickups in them. Gibson released a set of pickups in his honor, in his name. They had no pole pieces to be shown. It was the first completely covered pickup that I had ever seen, as far as in that style anyway. I mean, Jackson did it long before, but, you know, the chrome. So I put those in it, but kept the, now here's where the controversy kicks in, because I'm going to have to try to look at old pictures. Mine, I think, came with dirty fingers, but when I spoke to Gibson back then by phone and sent pictures by mail, trying to identify this thing, they said it might have the velvet brick pickups. But I don't know if the pole pieces were all adjustable or not. But either way, that was the guitar I had for many, many, many years. That was the one I was going to be buried with. End of story. Unfortunately, times got tough. I sold it in my rig. This is before moving to Arizona, when things were getting really tough for me and my family. So that's your typical thing. I actually think I got $1,300 for it. Not bad. I mean, when I got it, it needed cleaning up, but it was gorgeous. A gorgeous guitar, and I miss it. I would love to have it back, faults and all. So to be quite honest, number 1 and number 2 could both be number 1, and one outshines the other one just enough, and you'll understand why here. It's got to do in its age, to be perfectly honest with you. But number 2 has been a dream guitar my entire life, ever since I was a little kid. I remember seeing James Hetfield with that Explorer, that 84 Explorer, or whatever his gear was. I think his was an 85. And that was it. I was a young metalhead, real young kid, just getting into guitar. I still had my Kramer. Watching Cliff 'em All. I fell in love with that. So every time we go into a guitar shop, I'd ask, hey, do you have that Explorer that's rear routed? You know, people were like, what are you talking about? But it turns out it was a designer series guitar, something that Gibson did to capitalize in the metal scene. Took their traditional mahogany guitars and turned them into all their bodies, maple necks, hot pickups. I think they put dirty fingers in them. Great pickups, by the way. Had this special layout, what they call a V layout, with the the three knobs, and then you had the three-way switch over by the kind of where the Strat volume knob would be. Very interesting guitars for the time. Absolutely love them. And the white one has always been my dream guitar. I could die peacefully this very moment if I had one in my lap right now and I could call it mine. But as luck would have it, later on, I went over to that same Daddy's Junkie, and there was a black version of that guitar. And it was cool because they were capitalizing on both things, that James played that guitar, but now we're into the Black Album, working with the ESP. It had well, he didn't go then, but you know what I mean. But he had the black ESPs. So they're capitalizing on the black color and the fact that it was a Gibson, again, 300 and change. I think that's what it took to get it home. And I brought it home, and I had that all through high school. And let's see, I'm trying to think. I think in 92. 92 is when I got rid of it. I got it in junior high, actually, and I had it all through high school until 92, which was my sophomore year. And I traded in for a brand new Les Paul Studio wine red gold hardware with the trapezoid inlays and a hard case at the same store where that one went. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I have pictures of that guitar, the white version anyway, on my notes at work, you know, the wall in my computer and all that. That is the one that got away, the one. I only think the age of the next one tops it. But if I were to get one of those, and you know, and it's funny, there were so many different ones. There was ones with splatter paint, some with Kaler, no Kaler. I hate the Kaler. Worst case scenario, I'll take it, but you know what I mean? If it was affordable. But I would cut off a whole bunch of ducats if it had a Kaler, whether it was factory or not. So that one got traded in. Here's number one. So this is the one that really hurts. This is the stinger and the dinger, if you will. So let me take you back to about 1987, 88. Guns N' Roses just hit the market. They're not quite poser rock, so I'm enjoying it. You know what I mean? I don't have to hide with this one. It's pure old school American drinking rock and roll. And as a result of Slash and the two main videos, I would say Sweet Child O' Mine more so than Welcome to the Jungle, brought back the love for the Gibson Les Paul, which is ironic because that famous guitar wasn't a Gibson Les Paul. It was a private piece made by an individual. And it's odd because Gibson now copies that guitar for a signature guitar and makes bank off of it. So it's funny how things come around, but Les Paul's getting popular again. The Kramers and my Charvel that I had at the time going by the wayside. I'm like, fuck, I wish I had a Les Paul. My buddy Jeff, who lived, remember the Incarnation? We went to there and the bike. He wasn't the house that was on the end of the street, but he was kind of behind where they raised up the dirt there. I showed you. He lived on the other side of that little tree site. He says, you know what? My grandfather has an old Gibson Les Paul. It's just been sitting in the closet. I strum on it once in a while when I go over there. Now, mind you, I think we're just early junior high, actually. So we're young and dumb and full of it, right? This one stings bros and broettes. So I walk into his bedroom. There's this chipboard case, this old, dusty, musty chipboard case. Now I'm thinking, this kid's got a Les Paul that his grandfather bought. Vintage stuff wasn't a thing yet. It wasn't really popularized, you know. I don't even think Vintage Magazine was out yet. That big newspaper-looking son of a gun that I used to read that on the train going back and forth from Rhode Island to Boston for work. I'm thinking this big, thick, huge mahogany body that weighs as much as a Buick's butthole. And you know what I mean? And the binding and the inlays and the mother of pearl and what finish is it going to be? Is this going to be a gold top? Oh, it would kill anybody, including my own siblings, except for my sister Wendy. Tom, you're cool too. I'll hang on to you. That leaves one left for a gold top. It's going to be a burst, which we weren't really into burst things yet, you know. It opens up and it's nothing like a Les Paul at all. In fact, it's like less Les Paul or Les Paul less. It was this thin slab body, a little, well, a lot thicker than this. It had this wimpy little bridge and this weird angle in this weird spot, and the strings went over it, like they were like tying it around it or something. Now, mind you, I know what it is now. And then you get to the headstock, and there's no mother of pearl, and it's thinner. It's just a little, I mean, it's not like Melody Maker thin, but it's, it's got its own like little shape. It doesn't point as much. It has one pickup. It's about the shape of a humbucker, but it has these weird ears and a single line of hole pieces. This thing's goofy. I don't like this thing. Turns out his grandfather bought it in the late 50s. It was a Gibson Les Paul Jr. tobacco burst. So I had that in my possession for a few weeks. And I remember secretly loving the sound of it while hating everything else about it. It could, mind you, I was gain all the way up, mids all the way off, and everything else balls to the wall. I was a thrash metal player. I was, so I would plug it into that, and your P90s will do that. I mean, it won't sound as rich, but P90s most certainly will get you there. And that's what I used it for, but the strings just became too flappy, especially I used to tune down a half a step or do a lot of drop D, and it would flap, and I just remember liking the tone, but I'd get made fun of for this antique grandpa little piece of nothing. But it was cool. There was something cool about it, and I knew I wanted it. So he did want it back for a little bit. And then one day he came to me and said, "Hey, I need some money." I said, "Yeah, what's up?" "At Les Paul." I said, "Yeah? You want to buy it?" Now, mind you, we're a couple of years away now. I said, "Yeah, how much?" He goes, "I don't know, $200. Inside, I was like, ooh, because now people are starting to recognize these older instruments. You're starting to see the prices go up. And I was like, yeah, dude, yeah. Unfortunately, it turned into one of those things where we could just never meet up. Now, this is long after we weren't friends anymore. We were just acquaintances now in high school. So we never kind of bumped into each other. So I just went over his house one day, knocked on the door. I was like, "Hey, your name? You still have the guitar?" And his face just kind of went white. And I'm like, "Oh, dude, you didn't just sell it on me, did you?" He's like, No, it's still here." I went upstairs. His mom had dropped a treadmill on the head. Headstock was completely snapped off. The neck was garbage. I looked at it to see if it could be crafted, and even then I would have known how to do it sufficiently enough, but it wouldn't have looked professional. But I would have eventually had it professionally fixed anyway. And I was just like, oh, and literally just walked out, about to cry, walked all the way home, and then thought about it and called him back up and said, "Hey, I'll still buy it for $200. I was going to keep it as a wall hanger and then maybe try to get it fixed. And then it turned into we just never could get together. We could just never seem to make the time work. And then one day in the future, I bumped into him. He's like, "Nah, it's gone. It's long gone. My mom died of cancer, and I had to clean out the place, and I didn't have anywhere to put it." So there it is, the number one, a late 50s Les Paul Jr. for $200. It technically wasn't my guitar, but I did have possession of it for quite some time. And I fell in love with it for what it was, not for its vintage or anything like that, its collectability. I knew it had some value to it, more so than $200. But keeping that in the back of my mind, it was more about the vibe I got from it. And you'll notice I try to do a lot of things that are very Junior-esque with a lot of my guitars. Wow, that's a nice bike. I don't like the ape hangers though. It's cool looking, but your hands get numb. So there you go. What about you? What's your top 5? You can just list them, or you can make a reply video. Remember reply videos? Let's bring those back, man. Those were fun. The internet's boring now. Let's bring back fun. But let me know which one would have been your favorite down in the comments below. Thank you always so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Hit that bell so you know when I upload one of these random videos whenever. And I hope you're doing well. And until next time, take care. Keep it real. And bye-bye. Editing Chris here. Check out what Cesar over at Gibson USA teased in his Instagram this past week.